Evening, everyone. Why did you occupy the last bench? No, Shraddha yet to come or she will not come? So we should start then. Is she learning online? Why? Waiting. Okay. Chalo, we'll start with sources of energy. Now this is like a story, okay? This I think you must be already familiar with some part of it. So we'll just run through it. How will I? Where should I start? So everybody open this chapter, sources of energy. Yeah. So our life cannot exist without energy, can it? Why do we need energy? To do work, right? Energy is required to do work. So we need to have access to the most usable form of energy, right? Energy exists in various forms, right? But the most usable form of energy today is solar energy. How you make use of solar energy in your house?
Sir, I was asking about India.
Right now, are we using some energy?
Electrical.
Electrical energy. So, without electricity is like possible these days. No. So today, the most usable form of energy is electricity, right? What was the traditional source of energy in old days before electricity?
Sunlight.
Sunlight. How wood, yeah. So how would you cook food in old days?
Heat energy.
Right? Burn wood, burn coal, right? These are the conventional or old method of. So some I think earlier arrangement was better. Right? No? थोड़ा shift करो. You shift little bit. Shift in center. Okay. So, दूसरा चीज is, do we have unlimited source of energy? Do we have unlimited source of energy? No. So, what is the current source of energy we have? Like electricity is the most usable form. But what is the raw form of energy available to us? Fossil fuels. Yes. What is fossil fuel?
Like petroleum and all, which is
Coal and petroleum. Okay. So do we have unlimited reserves of it? Is it going to last forever? Maybe it will last in our lifetime, but will it be sufficient for the needs of future generation? No. So we have to think of alternate sources of energy. What are some of the alternate sources of energy? Solar and wind energy. Okay. So they are called as non-conventional sources of energy, right? What are the conventional sources? Fossil fuels. What are the non-conventional? Solar and wind. Wind also has been used traditionally. Okay, so we can classify it as renewable and non-renewable. Okay, so what are renewable and non-renewable? So renewable will always remain with us. Okay, it will never run out of supply. Whereas non-renewable will get exhausted, and which will get exhausted? The fossil fuels. So why are we saying that it will get exhausted? Because formation of fossil fuel takes millions of years. Okay? कोल को बनने में कितना टाइम लगता है? Takes millions of years. So all the remains of dead bodies, like and the organic waste, okay, it gets buried under the earth, and then over a period of very long time, it gets converted into petroleum. Okay. So once it runs out of supply, we cannot replace it overnight. Okay. So then what should we do? So shall we stop using petroleum products? Sustainable. Matlab, we have to think of innovative ways whereby the sources of energy that we are consuming, we should be also able to replace it. Like if you are burning woods, we should be able to plant more and more trees. So you consume trees, again replant, things like that. So this chapter is all about that. So the first topic in this chapter is, what is a good source of energy? Right? So what is a good source of energy? What properties it should have? A good source of energy. So it should be like how much heat does it release on burning? Which it should have high calorific value. What is calorific value? The amount of heat produced per unit mass of the substance. Okay, so 1 kg of coal may produce some heat. Then 1 kg of charcoal, maybe it will produce more heat. So since both masses are equal and one produces more heat, so its calorific value will be higher. The one which produces more heat. Okay, so it is. We have UT volume also. So open that also. It's like I think for this chapter UT volume will be better. Okay, so like what is a fuel? Fuel is substance which produces good amount of heat from burning in air at a moderate temperature. Okay, so fuel is anything which when you burn produces heat. So heat is a form of energy, right? Most usable form of energy is heat only. Either we get it through electricity or by burning gas for cooking purpose, right? Mostly for our consumption, we need energy in the form of heat and light most of the time. Okay? So how do we get heat? By burning things. Okay. So fuel is also something which produces heat after burning. So anything could be a fuel for us. Wood, coal, charcoal, gas, right? So fuel used in vehicles are diesel and petrol. That is also burned. Where is it burned? In the engine through a process called combustion. Burning process, the technical term is combustion. Okay. All right. So the question could be like, what are the good sources of energy? So it should have these things. Should do a large amount of work per unit volume of mass. So work means it should produce a lot of energy or heat energy. So it should burn easily, it should have high calorific value, right? This is self-understandable. Just read the point which you will not understand, I will understand. So it should not produce a lot of smoke or other pollutants. Means energy source should be such that it does not pollute the environment when you are using it. Are we using wood in our kitchen to make food these days? No. Because we have alternates available which when burned do not produce that much of smoke. We are using mostly CNG these days, right? Or what do we use? LPG. What is that pipe gas? That is CNG, right?
So same as CNG
It is also LPG. Cooking, so it is for liquefied petroleum gas, LPG. And CNG is compressed natural gas. So, Mahanagar gas, what does it send in our houses? CNG or LPG? It is LPG. Okay, so it's LPG. So it should not produce smoke and other pollutants. So when you are burning any fuel, if it burns completely, then there will be no smoke. Okay? If some part of it is left unburned, then that is converted as smoke. So if there is anything which burns completely, there will be no smoke. Like if you burn a candle. So, and then you have a kerosene lamp in villages. Have you seen? So whenever we burn a kerosene lamp, you will see that there is a black smoke also parallelly coming out of it. But in a candle, you don't see that black smoke. So wax completely burns. That's why. Okay. So its calorific value is better than kerosene. So kerosene does not burn completely. So it pollutes also. It should not leave any residue. Like when you burn wood, it will leave ashes behind. Okay. So there should not be any residue. Should be economical, should be affordable, right? Is it affordable these days? Relatively, it is expensive, right? Now, should be easily available and should be easy to transport. So, if you have to cook by burning wood, how much stock of wood you would have to keep? Now, in cities, we have small houses. So, there are so one room will be filled with wood only. So, it was possible in villages where they burn cow dung cakes, right? Or wood. So you would see there are large areas where they stock all that. But in cities it is not needed. So one LPG cylinder in a compact area or two pipe connection. Okay. It should be easy to transport and store. So these are the criteria. So there may be question, what are the good sources of energy? So some points, 4-5 points we should learn. So having known the good source of energy, now what are the conventional sources of energy? So there are two types, renewable and non-renewable. So what are renewable? Which will never run out of supply. Okay, it will never be exhausting. So the example of renewable is solar and wind. Okay. Non-renewable, fossil fuel, coal and petroleum. Why non-renewable? Because it takes at least 1 million years for replacement. That's why. So coal, natural gas, petroleum, lignite, uranium, right? So lignite is also a type of coal only. Then uranium, because that is a nuclear fuel. If you are having a nuclear reactor, right? The fuel used is uranium, thorium, plutonium, right? So that is why it is written as non-renewable. So we have to, wherever it is non-renewable, we don't have to stop using it. We have to use it efficiently and wisely. That is the care we have to take. So we have to manufacture devices, right, which are more energy efficient. So पहले 1 लीटर में 40 किलोमीटर जाती थी गाड़ी. Now so we have to work on the engine so that now it runs for say 100 kilometers in 1 liter. So that's how. So if the energy reserve was to going to last till 100 years, now with this it will last 200 years, which is a much better improvement, right? So for all the non-renewable energies, energy, we have to devise innovative ways to use it efficiently. Next, what are fossil fuels? Wait, coal and petroleum. So wood was the most common source of heat energy. Energy of flowing water and wind was also used. So in old days, were we using energy inside water? We only started using it recently when we built dams. So when we built dams, what happened? The flowing water was accumulated, so the kinetic energy was converted into potential. So the level of water rise. Then what we did? We released that water, the head water inside the dam, to a turbine. Because how electricity is produced? You need a generator. A generator has a rotating mechanism. So that released water will have a kinetic energy. That is mechanical energy. That will be used to rotate the armature coil in the generator with the help of turbine. So that rotating mechanism is called turbine. So that water hits the turbine fins and then the generator produces electricity. We have seen that in the last chapter, right? So then we will have energy produced using flowing water, which was trapped inside a dam. Okay. So is this energy renewable?
Yes.
It is idle energy. It is renewable because once the dam is emptied in the next season, rain will refill it. So this is the energy which will never exhaust. Okay. Now, the only thing which will exhaust is coal and petroleum. Okay. So when there is a question on fossil fuels, what are fossil fuels? You will just write it is coal and petroleum. Then what are the disadvantages of using fossil fuel? So one is burning fossil fuel has many disadvantages, like what? It will pollute the environment. Because when you burn coal, what does it release? It releases oxides of carbon, nitrogen, and sulfur. So they are acidic in nature. Okay, these oxides are acidic in nature. So they go and get mixed in the environment, which causes acid rains. When the acid rain comes on the ground, there is a possibility that it will contaminate the groundwater. And therefore, we have a contaminated water for consumption. Okay? So therefore, it will then start affecting our health. क्या करना चाहिए? We should either devise a way to use the fossil fuel such that it gets burned completely. Right? So now new types of engines are developed, wherein these fuels are burned completely. Like you must have heard, there is a Bharat stage 1, 2. Okay, today we have Bharat 6. So these are the standard. Okay, which define the engine category. So if it is Bharat 6, then it will pollute the environment less because it has a better combustion technology. Got it? So these are the things. So we will make improvement on the devices. So in addition to the problem of air pollution, it also leads to greenhouse effect. So when we burn the fossil fuel in the vehicles, the exhaust basically produces greenhouse effect. What does it mean? It heats up the environment. So are you familiar with the concept of greenhouse? क्या होता है? A glass house in which the sun rays enter, okay, but can't exit because the wavelength of the infrared waves which come from sun is small, so it enters. But when it heats the object, that object again releases infrared waves of bigger wavelength. Now that cannot come out. So there is a difference in the wavelength of the infrared. The infrared rays are released by any hot object. Okay? So when sunlight, let us say, makes the surface hot, so then this surface radiates back, but that infrared is of bigger wavelength. Is it clear? Now, so in the glass, right, it will allow infrared waves of smaller wavelength. But once it re-releases, it cannot go out. That's why we have a glass ceiling. Okay? So then what happens? It is conducive for crop production efficiency. So that's why we build greenhouses. So greenhouse effect is warming of the greenhouse which is built. It is an artificial facility where this warming of that facility takes place, right? But at the atmospheric level, there are certain gases which when are released in the atmosphere, okay, so they absorb sun radiation and they become hotter. They release infrared waves of bigger wavelength, which is then trapped in the atmosphere itself. It is not leaving the atmosphere. So atmosphere becomes hot. So then what happens because of that? Global warming, which will cause the glaciers to melt and the sea water level may rise. And therefore the coastal area might get submerged. So Mumbai cannot exist. Huh? So where we should go? On the hilltop. So that will not exist over many years. If it continues the way it is continuing. So we will not let it happen, right? We will be wise men. So we'll work on green energy, which will not further aid the environment. Okay? So at least we'll become sensitive towards it. So what we should do then? We should not use energy which produces more and more greenhouse gases. Right? What are those gases? Carbon dioxide, nitrogen, methane, sulfur dioxide, okay, all such things. Okay, great. So you guys are experts on global warming. So pollution control is what we discussed. We have to find ways to control it. Okay, so that is pollution control. Then the traditional sources of energy. So now we are coming to modern life. What are the traditional sources of energy? In last 100 years, वो तो primitive हो जाएगा. Petroleum now. See, traditional is thermal power plant. So we are talking about electricity. Electricity is existing for last 100 years or so, more than that, right? So, but how are we producing electricity? Right? So we burn fossil fuels to generate heat, use that heat to heat water to produce steam. We use that steam to rotate the turbine, which then rotates the generator armature, which produces electricity. So that is called thermal power plant, right? So we are burning fossil fuels to produce electricity, and almost 75% of the electricity in India today is produced through thermal power plant. So you can look at the pie chart here. Figure 14.1, page 244. So the red part. Look here. So the maximum energy is produced through thermal power plant. So how is this produced? Thermal power plant, what do? We burn the fossil fuels. That means we are creating maximum pollution. We are burning coal, right? So if you watch the news these days, there is a coal crisis going on in the country. They say the coal is left for only 1 month. Right? So you have to quickly import it now from Australia or wherever. Okay? Because right now our dependency is too much on coal or fossil fuels. So is it wise to continue to use thermal power plant? No. So what is the next best option? Hydro power plant, right? हाइड्रो पावर प्लांट में we have to build dams, right? So you can look at this diagram in your book. So when the dams are built, so you have a lot of pressure at the bottom. That's why the bottom wall of the dams are thicker. Okay? Because MGH, the more the height, more the depth, right? More pressure will be built over there. So then you have sluice gates. Sluice gate means the floodgates. When this is opened, that water will gush out at a very high speed and it will hit the blades of turbine. This will start rotating, and what you see above is generator. Once the turbine rotates, generator starts to function and it will start producing electricity. Okay, so that electricity is pulled out, and then with the help of transmission cables, it is delivered to industry and domestic users. Okay, then it is delivered to industrial and domestic users.
So, but it is not as effective as the hydro power plant.
Why not effective? It is effective. It produces the same electricity, 220 volt potential difference. What we need is 220 volt. So here we are getting it through the kinetic energy of the flowing water. In this case, we are getting it through fossil fuel burning, and that kinetic energy of steam. Steam is rotating the turbine. So here instead of water, steam is rotating. The device is same. Got it? So is it a clean energy? There is no pollution, but then it has its own disadvantages. What are the disadvantages of hydro?
It does everything upstream. As dams are created, water level builds up and it plus.
So it will submerge lot of habitable area underwater. So and if there was a settlement, it will have to be unsettled. That leads to a lot of socio-political issues. And that rehabilitation of people who are living there, it is never satisfactory. Right? So it will, like, it may pull down the government also. Like, there were two controversial cases. One was Narmada project, Sardar Sarovar Dam. The other was PHY Dam in Uttarakhand on river Ganga. So that project was also halted for more than a decade. And even in Gujarat, this Narmada project. So this was because many people had to be rehabilitated. Plus lot of land which could have been otherwise, agricultural land. So that vegetation gets submerged underwater. So that vegetation which is submerged under water, okay, it undergoes anaerobic reaction. What is anaerobic reaction? Reaction in absence of oxygen. So that produces methane gas. Now methane is a greenhouse gas. So basically, building dam has its own disadvantages. So cost factor is there. It's not easy to build a dam, and it cannot be built everywhere. So the locations where the dams could be built are only hilly areas, right? Because you have to have that much of volume available there. That river may how much dam you will build. So there should be a difference of the height. So that can only be constructed in hilly areas, right? So those options are limited. That is, although it is renewable, but then it has its own problems. Okay. Yeah, so these are mentioned on page 160. Constructions of big dams have certain problems associated with it. You can just read those points. If you need explanation, just let me know. So this is the theoretical chapter completely.
So then this will be over.
Today might be our last formal meeting. Now we'll be meeting for doubt solving and other things.
Means we know about this question that
No, why do you need it?
we know.
If you have any doubts, etc., you can demand, then I will come.
No, not doubts, but revision, we have to.
Yeah, that could be revision. Huh? It will, of course. It's not that now there will be no lecture. But do you, I have actually taught very thoroughly. Do you have complaints?
I missed the.
You can ask for an extra lecture. We'll do it for you. And there is always a doubt solving session every 2 weeks. Those doubt solving sessions are on Sundays, and it is for like 5 years in total, or 5 hours in total. So you can book a slot for 15 minutes, right? And then it can be extended. It's not limited to 15 minutes, depending upon your doubts. It can be extended. Or if you need an extra lecture, demand with Dwarka. Civil lecture. Okay. So don't worry. I mean, it's not that it's over. That's a mistake. Okay. There will be revision. There will be interaction on demand. Whenever you need, I will be there. Okay. So any issues with hydropower plants? So these are the traditional sources of energy which we have been running for over 100 years now. The thermal power plant, hydropower plants. Just go through the bullet points if you have any issues. It's like a story. Geography is there. Yeah. Huh? Yes. Because it's about our survival, right? And how economically, without bothering others. Shall I start with next topic? If you need any explanation, let me know. Otherwise, I'll start with improvements in technology. क्या हो गया? So improvements in technology for using conventional sources of energy. Shall we discuss? Any points you want me to explain? Construction of big dams have certain problems. No? Okay, so proceed. The next thing is biomass. Now, what is biomass? Bio is related with living beings. The waste produced by living beings. Now, animals as well as plants, they are regarded as living beings. So, plant waste and human waste, animal waste. So, जो कचरा हम लेके जाते हैं ना सब flexibility. So, we can use that waste to produce energy. Right? So, in villages, there is one biogas plant. Schematic is given in the book, which is called as digester. Okay, so in this case we use cow dung, which is mixed with water to prepare a thick solution, which is called slurry. So it is a mixture. It is a mixture of cow dung and water. Okay. Then it is fed into digester. You can see the slurry. Okay, it is fed into digester. Look here. Can you see this diagram? So it is fed from here, and it goes and gets deposited. Where it gets deposited into digester. Then there is this cover which is in the dome shape. Okay, so this cover is in the dome shape, right? So once it is covered, no oxygen can enter, right? So inside there are certain germs which decompose this slurry. They decompose it in the absence of oxygen. So when they decompose it, various gases are produced. What gases? Methane, okay, then you have nitrogen,
Mainly methane is produced.
mainly methane. You have hydrogen and hydrogen, carbon dioxide, hydrogen and hydrogen sulfide. Three gases. But methane is the major number. Almost 75% of it is methane. So the gas, the cooking gas that you burn is methane. Okay. So then, okay. So it is insulated by putting soil, right? And this dome shape has empty space. That is where the gas is accumulated. And then you have a knob. This knob is there. So you can open and close the knob to take the gas and use it. Got it? Now it is such an eco-friendly system. One is you get a methane, which when burned does not pollute the air because it gets completely burned. So there are no remains or residue. Okay? So it's a clean fuel you are getting, right? Second, the remains can be used as manure. So it doesn't harm the environment. You're getting a manure which is not chemical based, it is very organic. Got it? So then this thing, once it is used, the remains are pulled out and they are used for agricultural purpose. So this biomass or biogas plant, which is also called as gobar gas, because cow dung is also called as gobar in Hindi. So in all area we mention it as gobar gas or biogas plant. So it's like everything is good about it.
Except this plant.
So you don't have to live near it. ना ये पाइप लेके जाओ ना किचन में जहाँ पे भी यूज कर. क्या जो तुम्हारे घर में जो कुकिंग गैस है, you don't burn it, doesn't it smell? It smells, right? You have to burn it.
So it won't have high calorific value, right?
No, it won't have as high calorific value as you have it possibly. But it still, I mean, it is clean.
But the usage has to be double, right? For like if one coal can do as much as like value would have
Right.
such as 2 or
So there is a trade-off. Since this is like free, it is just like with some arrangement, you are able to use the animal waste and put it to good use without harming the environment. So it's okay. Instead of 100 kg, use 200 kgs of cow dung and do the job, right? So, but still it is worth it, right? And you can use it for lighting purpose.
You won't have a lot of cost factor.
Once initially it will have, because to put up the facility, so you have to build all this. So you have to invest some money initially. But that is a one-time investment. Then it is almost maintenance free. Whatever maintenance is, it will not cost money, just human labor. But in villages, you don't have scarcity of labor, so everybody works at villages. So the thing is, in aware people who are little literate and know. So I've seen many gobar gas plants in my village also. So people who know, they put this up. Otherwise, they keep burning cow dung cakes and keep producing smoke. Even in Gobar Cafe, you visit the station area, right? There are many houses which still survive on wood burnings, right? These slum areas and all. They want wood to cook food. So evening time you will see some order, right? Smoke is there. in the villages, because Koper Kerne is a gaon, basically, it's a village. So the city came up only last 30-40 years, but the villages are still there, and they are still, some of them, like around 20 to 30% of them, they are living in the old style. So there are fishermen, right? So they have small ponds where they are made holding ponds in which they breed fishes. Okay, so and they survive on it. And these mangroves, once they become old, so they are using those woods as fuel. Right? So if you visit those areas, you can witness them. So what are the advantages of biogas? Biogas is an excellent fuel as it contains up to 75% methane. It burns without smoke, leaves no residue like wood, charcoal, right? Huh? So these are the advantages of biogas, right? Its heating capacity is high, so it does have high calorific value, but not high enough as coal, as you said. Any idea what's the difference between charcoal and coal? Even charcoal is carbon only. So charcoal is when you burn wood, right? So wood has moisture, water content and all. So when you burn wood in absence of oxygen, so it doesn't burn fully. So it will become dry and black. That is called charcoal. Okay. So once it is converted into charcoal, its calorific value increases. When you again ignite it next time, once the wood is converted into charcoal, then it doesn't have flame. It just becomes red or incandescent, right? And then it produces a lot of heat. And it produces less smoke also. So charcoal has better heat capacity. Okay? And less pollution. In the form of charcoal, it will be less polluted as compared to wood, where when the wood is burnt, it will produce a lot of smoke because it doesn't burn fully. So half burnt wood is charcoal with no moisture.
So I've seen many people using charcoal to whiten their teeth. So is charcoal
Charcoal, I have used charcoal in my childhood. That is the old traditional way of cleaning and their tooth never used to decay, you know that? And we have everywhere like some white cement peeling and braces and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, and now we have these toothpaste producers, they are putting charcoal in it. I don't know whether they are putting real charcoal or just advertising, right? So, Colgate made Shakti and all that, they're using some. Yeah, Colgate only, they have charcoal, made Shakti and all that.
The face wash charcoal is
Toothpaste also. See, all traditional Indian things, they are now packaging and using our term to basically influence our people. In any village, you still will find like dato, name ka dato, that stick, right? Babul, meswak. I mean, we have been using it since ages. In villages, even today, you'll find that every house has a neem tree and strong teeth. One white and you're gone. Okay. So large-scale utilization of bio-waste and sewage materials provides a safe and efficient method of waste disposal besides supplying energy and manure. So manure is the organic fertilizer. It's chemical free. So it is rich in nitrogen, which is required for rich crop yield. Right. Okay. So if your municipality is doing good work, right? So we should be using recycled water in our toilets, like they do it in UAE. Okay, in Dubai and all. So all the plantation. So the road divider will have beautiful plantations which has good flowers. So they are watered by recycled water. Huh? Drip irrigation. What
So in
fountain?
individual is found this. Recycled water fountain.
Where?
Yes, sir, is named.
That is what STP, sewage treatment plant.
So you know the treated water is
Which has a fountain.
Used as a fountain in the gardens, no? Is that also okay? Yeah, that's possible. But it smells, don't go here. So if it sprays, you know, you will be sprinkled with the recycled water and then the fragrance won't be very and won't be pleasant. Huh? So you can sense that. So whenever the recycled water is used in the garden, you can sense the odor. So you better stay like 1.5 meters away. The flower could be quite inviting, tempting, right? Stay away. All the glitters is not good. So okay, but at least we are not wasting water. So in the UAE, when I lived, okay, so the drinking water, how do they have drinking water? There are no rivers. So what do? Desalination. So they use the sea water. They put up plants. So they just remove the salt and make the water drinkable.
It would be very costly. Like,
It's a very costly process. So we always survive on bottled water. Bottled. Every time you do, bottled water and then dispense it. Not tap water. In India, you can directly drink the tap water. The RO water is more harmful, right? Because it removes even the required nutrients and minerals. So anybody who has survived on RO water for like 2-3 years, so if he goes to village and drink water, he'll get dysentery because the rich water he cannot digest. So you should be basically using the what I say, non-RO water. Just filter it, boil it, and then you can drink. Because our body needs all the minerals, right? We don't have the required minerals. It's all marketing gimmick. Every time they will change it. RO itself, reverse osmosis, right? It takes away. So they use these filters, which filters even the required minerals. So what you are drinking looks like water, but without the required nutrients. What's the point? Then your immunity, internal resistance, everything is compromised. Why again? So you put it in earthen pot, matka as we say, right? Use this, what is it, potash, alum. Pitri, क्या बोलते हैं इसको? Potash, alum. You know this? Potash, alum. Right? So you just put it in a piece of cloth and run it like this, 5-10 times. And what it does is it cuts the dust and sediments it. Okay, so when you have this earthen pot, the outlet is like few inches above. So all the waste or the impurity settles down. Then what you get is a clear water with all the minerals in it. That's the traditional way, and that's what you should do. But the way it has been advertised by Hema Malini, if you drink those water, you will be natural Bharat dancer. Huh? Anyway, wind energy. So shall we move on to next? We have 2 hours left, right? So we should be able to finish it. Next is wind energy. Now, what is wind energy? Have we been using it since before electricity times? So earlier it was used for cooling water, right? So the chain of container was run down, right? And it used to pull water from well or a deeper area. And that's how the fields were irrigated, right? But now it is being used to produce electricity also because it has blade which can rotate, and this rotation can be used to rotate the turbine. and that turbine will then rotate the armature coil in the generator.
So, Patia, they are.
Blades.
They are so heavy and how can they move from those spots?
So they are mounted on very strong shaft, and the wind currents can move the ships in the sea. So ships are like moving buildings. They are much heavier than even your blade which you are talking about. You know what is wind power? So it can move ships.
Sir, but even the slightest movement, they will move us.
No, the wind velocity required is minimum 15 km per hour, minimum. It has to continuously flow at that rate. Only then, and once the blade is set into motion, that's how the design is. Once it is set into motion, then it is very easy because through momentum, it will carry on. Inertia. So inertia of motion will help it to keep on rotating. And if the force is constantly acting, its acceleration, means it will go on rotating with faster and faster speed. Got it? So we have the largest. So the problem with this is the initial cost of putting this together is very, very high. To make a windmill of 1 megawatt, right? You need two hectares of land. It consumes, it requires a very large land area. So 2 hectares is like quite big, just for 1 megawatt, right? So 1 megawatt can power 500 houses. You can just think of it that way. Okay, so it becomes very costly. And one windmill is not enough. So you have to put up a farm where at least you have dozens or tens and hundreds of windmills, so that when you combine their power output, so the combined power is good enough for commercial application. You got it? So its initial cost of putting up is very, very high. These are the problem with windmills. Second problem is you need continuous wind, right? Running at least at the velocity of 15 km per hour. So there are not many regions in the country where you find constant wind at this speed. So it is there in Gujarat, I have seen, like in Porbandar, the coastal west coast. Rajasthan. So the coastal area. Coastal area is where there is wind. Now, how the wind flow takes place? Due to temperature difference, right? So the land gets heated. So when the sunlight falls in a coastal area, the land gets heated faster than water because water has a very high specific heat, right? So due to temperature difference, the air above land gets heated up. So it becomes lighter, goes up. So there is vacuum created. So the wind comes gushing from the sea, the cooler wind, and it flows towards land in the daytime. In the night time, it reverses. Okay, so there is a wind flow continuously towards the land or away from the land. So in the coastal area, you can put up wind farms or on hilltops. So if you have traveled towards Nashik or Shirdi, you would see wind farms running over many kilometers. Have you seen that? Goti, beyond Goti, you would start seeing those wind farms. Yes, just before, between Goti and Shirdi. And in south, I think the biggest wind farm is in Kanyakumari. Right? So that's where it is. So very small part of energy production in India is supplied through wind farms, less than 3%, I think. Okay. So what are the advantages? It is environment friendly, right? And it will never run out of supply because wind is always available. So there is no recurring expenses, but the initial cost to put it up is very exorbitant. Plus, it requires high maintenance because it is always exposed to harsh weather conditions, sun, rain, wind, right? So very high maintenance is involved here. Right? Clear? So the limitation. So Usually ask questions about different sources of energy, what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages. Right? Okay, so I think we have reached the end of this hour.
So non-dimensional,
Huh?
non-dimensional sources, solar.
Any time was left.
Yes.
When is it ending? 7:30? 7:30, huh? And after 5 minutes again it will start. Okay. So we next is non-conventional sources. ये तो आराम से खत्म हो जाएगा, आज ही खत्म हो जाएगा। So we'll start that non-conventionals after the break. Okay. Your physics class is over. What about other subjects? Bio almost complete. Physics, bio, chemistry. Two more chapters. Chemistry also only 4 chapters, no? 5 chapters. Periodic table is okay.
I think periodic table is only.
Some part of it or completely? See, I have also taught you some omitted topics also, right? But I have taught you completely. So you omit yourself, whatever is not required. Okay? But I got motor, generator, it's a very important topic and I omitted it. I think so. The generator part is not there. Motor is left and right hand rule is there. Electromagnetic induction should be there, the definition part of it. But the application, motor, generator, I think it is not. Last year it was not. Last year it was not. So you had fun in the last class. Shooting each other. Okay, so let's take a break. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Wow. So let me write what it is. What are we doing? Sources of energy.
एक मार्क के
लोगों का मोबाइल में है या क्या है? हाँ मोबाइल में कुछ है आया है या मैं इधर ओपन एक्चुअली ना एक मैसेज तो हमने शेयर किया है दैट इज सेट टू बी क्वेश्चन बैंक इज सेट टू बी क्वेश्चन का एक बैंक दैट मींस some of the questions expected questions will assigning you on Thursdays every Thursday okay वो जो क्वेश्चन बैंक मतलब related to your Sundays paper संडे को जो भी पेपर रहता है उस ये क्वेश्चन बैंक से ही उसमें क्वेश्चंस आएगा दैट मींस थोड़ा आप लोगों को इजी हो जाता है ओके बट वो क्वेश्चन बैंक में जो भी है थर्सडे को हम रिलीज करेंगे आप लोगों को डाउनलोड करने का पिछले वो एक ही दिन के लिए रहेगा और फ्राइडे सैटरडे आप लर्न कर सकते हैं डाउनलोड करने के बाद और उसमें डाउनलोड करने के लिए यू नीड योर लॉगिन आईडी पासवर्ड यूपी ने जो दिया है लॉगिन आईडी पासवर्ड वो लगेगा गो टू www.universaltutorials.in में जाओ और आप लोगों का लॉगिन आईडी पासवर्ड डालो डाउनलोड करो डाउनलोड सेक्शन में अवेलेबल रहता है संडे का पेपर का ही रहता है अगर आप लोगों ने बहुत अच्छे से किया यू कैन स्कोर 20 50 और 100% स्कोर कर सकते ठीक है इतना करने के बावजूद भी तू अभी भी सो गया तो यू विल गेट बढ़ा रहता है ठीक है क्या मैं बोलूं क्या करना रीड करके राइट करने का राइटिंग भी होना चाहिए सिर्फ रीडिंग में कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं होता वो लर्न करो अच्छे से लर्न करो राइटिंग करो और ऑप्शन से तुम सुन रहे तुम्हारे हाथ में कभी से मोबाइल उठा रहे वहां से निकाल के अंदर के नहीं रखा तुमने अगर मेरा सामने तुम लोगों का हाथ में मोबाइल है मैं निकाल के फेंक दूंगी और तुम ऐसे ही करते हैं घर में भी 24 आवर्स मोबाइल में ही रहता है स्कूल में भी ऐसे रहता है ये क्या कर रहे हैं अभी मोबाइल में क्या कर रहे हो तुम कुछ नहीं अंदर रखो बैग में साइलेंट मोड पे और मैं क्या बोल रही थी बोलो रिपीट करो
वो पहले थर्सडे को क्वेश्चन बैंक्स दिया जाएगा जो संडे के टेस्ट के लिए रहेगा उसको हमको सॉल्व करना है तो अगर पूरा करेगा तो पूरा मार्क्स
हां
अगर उसे अच्छे से सॉल्व किया तो पूरा मार्क्स
यूनिवर्सिटी लॉगिन में
जाके डाउनलोड करें
डाउनलोड सेक्शन में रहता है डाउनलोड कर ठीक है और कुछ डाउट है तो होना पेंडिंग यू गिव यू आल्सो मैं बोली थी तुमको इस वीक में दे दो फिर भी मैं बोली अच्छा मैं वो बोलते रहे तो तुम्हारा जो भी टेस्ट रहता है ऐसा करो तुम्हारा लेक्चर टाइम में सेट टू बी 6:30 to 8:30 तो उससे 1 घंटा पहले या आधा घंटा पहले एक दिन या 2 दिन करके तुम दे सकते हैं तुमको बोल के मैं आपकी बुद्धि होगी हाँ ये सब क्या तो अगले साल के लिए रखा है पूरा हाँ because of your school means what is your school timing 3 o'clock till 3 o'clock na your this lecture is at 6:30 so you can come here around 6 o'clock 6 to 6:30 you can write that means you don't want to write the test henceforth you should not come here that's all my baby on Sunday
What cake? You not learn how to defend the cake. So now your testers कितने में?
टेस्ट नहीं टेस्ट
ये तो ऐसा मत करो. So just go through what we have discussed in the last class. Do you want any help anywhere? Huh? This is like a story. So when you read it, I think you should understand. So tell me, what are conventional sources and what are non-conventional sources? Correct. That has we have been using. So what are the conventional sources so far? Electricity is the most usable form of energy. But that's not the primary source. The primary is you want fossil fuel, उससे electricity बना. So conventional source is fossil fuel. The fuel needed to produce electricity and
thermal, hydro,
yes.
wind and biogas.
Yes. So, but biogas is improved version, right? Improvement over the previous one. But mainly it is what are the conventional sources? Thermal, fossil fuels, hydroelectricity. These two, right? And wind energy, right? And wind and what you said is biogas also. These are improved ones. So these are conventional. What are non-conventional? We are going to discuss now. So non-conventional are, so there could be conventional one as well as renewable, like idle. Idle is also renewable, right? But the non-conventional ones are renewable. Okay, what is the meaning of renewable? Which will never run out of supply. So it is also called inexhaustible source of energy, right? So the first and foremost in this is solar energy. Now what is the source of solar energy? Sun. Now sun has been the source of energy for its lifetime, which is 5 billion years as of now. And it will still be available for next 5 billion years. So you don't have to worry. Right? Okay. So sun will continue to shine for next 5 billion years as per present estimates.
So what is this electricity?
Why will it disappear? So if sun disappears, do you think we will remain here for a long time? Will be gone? Yeah, I mean then also, but you have time. Right? So basically, what do we do to harness energy? So energy is already available, right? But it is not available in usable form. Like we can't cook food directly. We can't make chapatis under sunlight, right? Can we? No. So we need to concentrate that energy, right? So for that we make devices to harness the available natural energy. We manufacture devices. Like for combustion, we have combustion engines where the fuel will be burned and then we will convert the chemical energy to mechanical energy. Right? So we need energy devices. So likewise, to harness solar energy, if you want to cook, use the solar energy for cooking purposes, we would need solar cooker, whose schematic is given here. So it is like a box, right? Cooker which is like a box, which is painted black inside. Why black? It will absorb the light. So maximum heating will take place. Then we have covered it with a glass sheet. Huh? To multiply the heat further. Na? So we are covering it with the glass so that the heated portion, the heat doesn't escape.
Then why isn't it using black color to greenhouse plants?
Why black is?
Not apply to greenhouse plants.
Not apply to greenhouse plants.
So it will be absorbed at the black layer itself. It will not reach the plants. The glass will become heat, but the nutrients which the sunlight carries will not reach the crop. It's a shield, no? Walls will be hot. Okay. Now here, so where is the cooking stuff? Like the grains are kept. Grains are kept in a utensil inside that box. And then it is covered by a glass. See, there's a glass plate kept. There is a food container, and then it is covered with a transparent glass. And there is a reflector. So when the sunlight falls, then it reflects onto the food grains. Right? So the heat enters and it is trapped inside. Because there is a greenhouse effect also. The glass doesn't let the infrared escape. So the heating gets multiplied. And you achieve temperature up to 140 degrees Celsius, 100 to 140. So 100 is good enough to boil the water, and the food will be cooked inside. Right? So this is your solar cooker. But do you think it is feasible to make food in solar cooker?
Yes, it will be longer.
It will take time longer than what we use right now. Plus, can we use it in the night? So then what should we do? Shall we take food in the afternoon itself or night as well?
No, some appliances have the ability to store solar. Some appliances have the ability to store solar energy.
Like which appliance?
Some appliances.
Battery. So you convert that in the form of electrical energy by storing them in battery. Okay, and then run the devices again. So which will run on current. So heater, use that heater, right? Something like that. Okay, but still it is very inconvenient because it is bulky. I mean, and you have like you won't have an open roof, right? Or you have to have a balcony. So in city, like where you have multi-storied rooms, everybody will not have a balcony big enough to be able to use sun to do solar cooking. All right. So the reflector comes in plane mirror or spherical reflector type. So it will concentrate. If the reflector is like this, okay, then it will concentrate the sunlight in one area. Whereas plane reflector will uniformly reflect it over the entire book. Okay. Anyway, so this is extra. It's not given in the book. It's just much given. So what are the advantages of solar cooker? Disadvantages? It's not given, but we already discussed, right? Advantages, it's pollution.
Then given the advantages.
Where?
At the bottom of the page.
What is the advantage?
Just
Just the title. Where is the advantage? That's what I said, we discussed, right? So what are the advantages of solar cooker? Pollution free. Okay, it's pollution free first of all. Then
No electric cost.
no recurring cost. Like if it is fuel, every month you have to put the bill. Here there is no recurring cost. But what is the disadvantage? It's inconvenient to use and can't be used in night time. So you need availability of sun. So what if it is rainy? Will you not cook for 4 months? No. Save fast for 4 months. So the thing is, it cannot be used in all weather. That's the problem, right? Next is solar water heater. So this you must have seen even in Mumbai. Right? Many societies have solar water heaters installed on their rooftops. So how does it look like? It looks like this. So you have cold water, right? So the cold water enters at the bottom. So what you have is this thing is this is where the copper tubes are running. Okay. So the cold water enters at the bottom. This is a box kind of a thing. Again painted black, just like solar cooker, so that it concentrates all the sunlight received on top of it, and the top is then glass sealed. So it is like a box only in which copper tubes are running. So what happens is cold water, look at the schematic at the right. Cold water from the upper tank enters here. Look here. The pipe is here. Okay. And then the hot water. So this is where the hot water is collected. In this tank, which water is heavy, cold or hot? Cold water will be heavy because its density will be less. The hot water molecules will be lighter because they are spread out. So always the hot water will be collected in the upper region. And the cold water will be collected in the lower region. Got it? So then the hot water is taken out for use. Understood? Let me explain again. There is a cold water tank, overhead tank. From here the cold water enters, and then through that it enters the bottom of the solar panel. This is where the sunlight falls. So and here we have copper tubes running, right? So many twists of copper tubes. So the copper tubes absorb sunlight. It is a good conductor of heat, and it is housed here. So there is a greenhouse effect which multiplies the heat further. So this hot water will be now accumulated on top of the tank, and the cold water will be below. So hot water is then taken out from the upper portion of the tank and used in the bathroom. Is that clear? Yeah. So that's how the hot water. The water is heated using solar installation. Then solar cells. So these two uses were the solar light converted into heat to cook food and to heat the water. Now solar light converted into electricity. Okay. So then we need what is called as solar cell. What is solar cell? So it's a small chip. It will convert the solar light directly into potential difference. Each solar cell produces potential difference of nearly 1 volt. Okay. So what is the practical amount of potential difference you require? Minimum 1.5 volt, right? So you go on adding multiple solar cells. So there are like 1.5, 3 volt, 6 volt, 12 volt appliances which run on DC. Or if you want to run AC appliances, they run on 220 volt. So then you will store the solar energy into DC cells and use inverter. Okay, that inverter will convert the DC output into AC output and then give it to your home appliances. So in villages you would see you have solar plant with DC batteries and then inverter, solar inverter is there. So solar inverter will convert the supply into AC. That's how we use it. So where do we see solar cells? So in this, you see so many cells, right? So many patches side by side are basically each solar cell. They are connected with each other in series. So it's like a battery. Okay, each solar cell is like a cell. Okay, so when you connect many cells, then it is like a battery, right? So a solar panel may have so many solar cells. Each row may have 5, 6, 10 depending upon the size. Okay. Right. So whenever you need more potential difference, add many panels side by side. So you might have seen on the rooftop of societies, like the whole society is covered with solar panels. So then they generate, they use it for staircase lighting. Right, all the like low voltage lighting is done through solar energy. All the society lighting is done by that. So when there is no grid power, right, you still have at least the staircase lighting will be on. So all the non-critical application you can use using solar power, but not in the lift or AC because very high requirement is there. Within no time your battery will be exhausted. Or you have to put up a very expensive solar power facility for at least 5 to 10 kilowatts. each kilowatt will cost at least a lakh of rupees. So a 10 kilowatt facility you have to invest at least 10 lakh rupees. Right? Once you have 10 lakh rupees solar, so you will have 10 kilowatt. So 10 kilowatt means what? 1 kilowatt hour, right? So every second it is generating 10 kilowatt. So all the house loads will be able to then run. Okay? But then the facility becomes costly and it will require some maintenance also because there are batteries. Then you have to see that somebody doesn't fiddle with it because it is almost an electrical plant inside your facility. So you have to take care of it, right? The panel should be cleaned regularly so that the solar irradiance is not affected. So if there is a dust layer, the light will not reach, so the electricity generation will be affected. So it is a regular maintenance thing. But the energy is pollution free. Okay. So what is the disadvantage? So these cells are made up of silicon, which is readily available. What is silicon? The sand found on the beaches, right? But yeah, that's silicon. But that's not high grade, which we make use of. So the high grade silicon which is used to make solar panel is still limited. It is available in limited supply. So it is still costly. The biggest disadvantage of solar panel is it is still very costly. All non-conventional sources are very, very costly. Like windmill, okay, solar panel. Windmill conventional, but it's renewable. Yeah. So yeah, so there is a confusion. So it's renewable. What I mean is renewable. Solar is also renewable, wind is also, but then it is very costly to put up that facility, right? So all the green energy which does not pollute the environment, they are very costly to put up initially. But once they are put up, they keep on running for many years without any problems. Okay. Right. So what are the disadvantages? Costly. It is costly. Then these solar cells, I said you have to use many solar cells, right? So they are connected using silver. That further adds to cost. So you've seen this soldering between various electric components. So it's a silver joint, right? That's solder. So it is still costly. In spite of high cost, the efficiency is very low. Like I said, it can be used for lighter application, right? Not for lift or AC. Otherwise, you have to put up really very costly solar, right? So if you are putting 10 lakh upfront, now your electricity bill is not more than 5,000, 6,000 per month. So your annual cost is like 50, 60,000. So you can 10 lakh means you can run 20 years. So 20 years of electricity bill you are paying upfront, right? So that's how it becomes costly, right? So yeah, but then its uses are really good. Like if it is a remote village where it is difficult to put up the transmission line, there is a hamlet with only say 50 houses. So to put up a transmission line will be very expensive proposition. So there you can put up a small solar plant for local use, right? So remote villages can be electrified within no time. So those places. Then if it is satellites, how do you power satellite? Can we run a wire from here to satellite? So they can have their own solar facility to generate energy for their own requirement, right? So all the satellites, space probes like Mars orbiter, so they gain energy and continuously run themselves, right? So that's all it is. You can't, if it is running on petrol, who will go to refill it, right? So you have solar panels. Solar panels are also used in calculators, etc., right? Then in villages, you must have seen everywhere you have mobile towers everywhere. So they also require energy. So the electrical energy for remote mobile towers is given by solar panels. Okay, or diesel generators. right? So in the night it will be diesel generator and in the day it will be solar power. Or if you have the battery bank, so in the daytime itself you charge the battery, in the night you use the battery. Right? Daytime you use the energy produced by solar power. So this is all about solar energy that I wanted to tell you. Advantage is it is green and clean, but disadvantage is it is very expensive. That's all. So where are we seeing these days solar panels, traffic signals, toys also have solar cells, rooftops,
Water meters.
huh?
Water meters.
Solar water heaters, yes, correct. Because solar water heater, solar cooker. So this was about solar as electricity also. Right? Next, so we have many other forms of energy available, but we are not necessarily using it. Like we can generate energy from sea also. So how? There is tidal energy, wave energy, and ocean thermal energy. There are three types of energy which we can exploit from sea. Now tides, so in 24 hours, the water level in the sea rises, right? So it depends on the moon position. So the gravitational pull of sea water by moon will raise the level of sea water. So when the water level is high, then what we should do is, wherever it is feasible, we will make small dams. So that high water fills the dam, and then we cover it when the water goes down. And then the stored water is then released, and we rotate a turbine and produce electricity. So in India, we don't have many areas where this can be done. Like if the sea water rises, high tide, there is not enough, facilities where we can hold that water, and therefore it just goes. So we don't have way to harness tidal energy. So the limitation in the locations where such dams can be built are very limited in India. Like it can be, where can it be built? Huh? Like it's like you have hill rocks and the rock is high like this, and when the high tide comes, it fills it and then comes out. So the water is trapped. So we don't have such natural locations, right? And to build dams would be very expensive because where will the dam stand? I mean, they fall, right? Then second is wave energy. Now what is wave energy? So wherever you have like at the coastal area, you see like turbulent waves, right? Wherever it is very windy, you get large waves. So wave is like water flowing, so it will have a lot of kinetic energy. So if you build devices where this kinetic energy can be used, okay, then again you can produce electricity. Right? So wide variety of devices have been developed to trap wave energy for rotation of turbines and production of electricity. But we don't see many of such harnessing of energy by this method in India. Okay. Maybe in some other part of the world we might be doing. So you understood what is tidal and wave energy. Tidal is there is a level difference in the sea water, then you hold that water in the artificial dams or natural dams. But then that is not available in India. And wave energy is when we are harnessing the kinetic energy of the waves. So these two are different. Then there is ocean thermal energy. Now what is ocean thermal energy? There is a difference in temperature on the upper surface of the water of the sea and water at a deeper level. Right? So the difference could be as high as like almost 20 degrees Celsius. Okay? At the surface water and water at the depth of 2 kilometers from the surface. You got it? So water at the depth of 2 kilometers, deep sea, 2 kilometers each. That water is at least 20 Celsius lower than the surface water. So wherever there is a difference, hot and cold, we can use that difference to produce electricity. There are devices, right? So what can be used? So we can use ammonia which has a very low melting, what do you call, boiling point. Ammonia has a very low boiling point. So the surface water temperature will vaporize the ammonia. Okay. So once the ammonia, which was in liquid form, if it vaporizes, now vapor means it is steam. Steam will have high pressure that can be guided to rotate the turbine, right? And the water which is 2 kilometers low, you can pump the cold water. So to again condense that ammonia. So there is a closed cycle built. So the upper water is vaporizing the ammonia and the cooler water below the, like 2 kilometers below, which is pulled up, is again condensing it. So there is a continuous vaporization and condensation of ammonia, which is used to rotate the turbine. So this is also a very expensive way of harnessing. Like you have to put up a facility 2 kilometers in deep sea. Somebody going there to build that never come back.
It would have high calorific when doing it.
It may not be convenient and high calorific. Like I said, it is very, but it is environment friendly. It's not polluting. So all these renewable energies are non-polluting, but it is difficult to harness, right?
Just soil is a renewable energy.
Huh? What?
Soil.
Soil.
Renewable or non?
Where did we say soil? Soil or solar?
Soil. It's a renewable or non?
मतलब कैसे? Soil. What do you mean? I didn't get it.
Soil is a renewable resource or non?
Soil. It is every year you are making food production, right? From the same soil.
No, resource.
Soil as a resource.
Without outer space.
Suppose soil got drained out, then how will you replace it? You can't replace it.
So we
Like in
can't
flood and all.
millions of years to make it productive.
Soil will take millions of years. Like how? I'm not aware.
Thinking of small.
Acha. Like today, what is desert can get converted into soil over a million of years. Then what do you mean? Like I'm not
Soil is renewable resource.
They see it loses its productivity. So you have to do nitrogen fixation. That's why we use fertilizers. So the soil loses its yielding power with more usage. That's why we do cross. There are various methods to retain the yielding power of soil. That is what you meant. Means its ability to produce agriculture year over year. That's what you meant. What did you mean? No. So your question, maybe I'm not able to get your question, or
He was asking if soil.
we are discussing energy. First of all, you tell me what connection soil has with energy. You got mixed up actually. You basically are mixing the yielding ability of soil for food production with energy. Energy, obviously, that food is also energy, right? Because food has a calorific value which we consume and then burn. Not satisfied, I know. Anyway, so you think about the question, cook it, and ask me in the next meeting. Okay. So is ocean thermal energy clear? Because of difference in temperature of the surface water and deep water. And this difference in temperature can be exploited with the help of a conducive device. So everywhere we need a different type of device to use that difference. Okay. So everybody has understood what is ocean thermal energy? Huh? Now let's get out of sea and come on land. So next is geothermal energy. Now what is geothermal energy? See, in deep earth crust, okay, there are molten rocks. So once it is molten, it is pushed up. Okay? So it is pushed up and it is held in area which is then called as hot spots. Right? So anything which is heated, it has a tendency to erupt. Okay? This molten rock will try to erupt and it will come up as much as it can. Right? Then it is trapped somewhere and it heats up that area which we call hot spots. Now with those areas, the groundwater will come in contact. Wherever these hot spots are there in the earth crust, the groundwater will come in contact. So that groundwater will get converted into steam. Right? So it will further try to come up. So in some cases, the hot water itself erupts. So that area we call as hot water springs. Right? It finds a way out, and those areas are hot water springs. So there are many places like in New Zealand. Okay, is it New Zealand? Yeah, New Zealand and America. New Zealand and USA, you have many areas where you find hot water springs. But there is also steam which gets trapped inside rocks in those areas. There is steam, right? So, how did we produce electricity? We were generating heat by burning fossil fuels and then we were burning water to produce steam. And here you have ready-made steam trapped under the rocks. So what do? You drill holes and put pipes into it, reach the deposited steam area. That steam will come out through the pipes that you have inserted. And that steam then can be guided to rotator turbine. Okay, so you build facilities where you have those streams, but again, those locations are only very limited, found in a limited way in some geographies of the world. There it can be commercially viable, right? It's in New Zealand and United States. Obviously, it will be very, very cheap. Just you have to insert pipe to get the steam out. Okay, whereas everywhere else they have been burning fuels and putting up plants, etc. Right? So here you just have the generator and guide the steam on the steam turbine.
Sir, is there artificial geothermal energy? Because I heard recently they took water in a pipe and they drill underground. As we go underground, it gets hotter. So they took the water underground until the temperature was too cool for boiling. Then they use this steam for.
Quite possible. If they make a closed loop where they insert the cold water, it goes inside, then it gets converted into steam. Outside they cool it, so it condenses again, converts into. So this is possible. But how efficient it is that's what needs to be seen. It is quite possible. So you understood geothermal energy, and the last is nuclear energy. So what is nuclear energy? So what is done here is,
Sir, by nuclear reaction, it is produced, and that means water is boiled.
correct. So, but the difference is in the scale, right? So we use uranium as a nuclear fuel. So what is coal? Coal is carbon, right? So if you break one atom of uranium, right? And if you burn one atom of carbon, because carbon is burned to produce heat energy, right? Whereas uranium is broken, that is what fission. When you break the uranium nuclei, then the energy is produced. But the difference is one uranium atom will produce at least 10 million times the energy produced by one carbon atom combustion. So the scale is, the difference of scale is much bigger. 10 million times, can you imagine? So that's how powerful nuclear energy is. But when it was first invented, it was used for destructive purposes. No, not still. Where did we use? We used nuclear bomb only once. We used nuclear bomb only once. Twice again in the same place. Japan only was bombed twice. Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Many tests happened.
Tests happened, but was it used on humans after that? No.
but rather than using it for testing, it's like
We are using it for energy, we are saying. So that is a controlled nuclear reaction. Everywhere, wherever you have nuclear reactor, so wherever we have nuclear reactor, we are using it for peaceful purposes. Right? So we have signed a treaty, like Indians have signed a treaty that we will never use nuclear weapons first. Only when we are attacked, then we will use. But the foolishness is once we are attacked, we will be in a position to use it to defend ourselves. It's like guy who uses first will win the war. It's like that. So it's only deterrent. So nobody uses nuclear. They just keep threatening it. Nobody. Because the one who uses also is threatened to get exposed to the radiations. Okay. So how this nuclear energy is achieved is by fission. So fission is breaking up of the nuclei. So the new nuclei mass is less than the parent nuclei. Like one uranium atom mass is more than the two new nuclei which are created. So the mass difference is converted into energy. By the formula is equal to mc square. Okay? So that is what is the basis of nuclear energy, right? But what are the disadvantages? The disadvantage is the nuclear fuel which is used. You remember biogas? The slurry which was used, the leftover is used as a manure. So even the leftover is useful and it does not pollute the environment. In case of nuclear energy, the leftover, the nuclear waste, it is very hazardous. It is radioactive. So even though it is no more useful for producing nuclear energy, but then the waste disposal is a big challenge. So where should it be disposed so that it is not harmful for mankind and other living beings? You know, that's a challenge. So it has to be kept in lead enclosure and it's not contaminated groundwater, etc.
this was the point outline.
Whatever, like I mean, it has to be disposed quite away from humanity. And wherever it is going to bother the living beings around that. Because we can never get rid of radiation. It goes for millions and billions of years. So there are radiation hazards associated with nuclear power. Right? And of course, so the improper nuclear waste storage and disposal result in environmental contamination. So there is a risk of accidental leakage of nuclear radiation. So we have to be. Chernobyl was it was an accident. No, it was an accident. So is it clear? Plus, it is very costly and requires a lot of skills. Everybody cannot have this facility, right? So you know many nuclear plants in India. One is in DRC. Yeah. So we have in south we have I think Kalpakam. Then Kalpakam we have one. Kaiga. That's called Kaiga, I think. So given in NCERT, right? All right. So what we have seen is we have various forms of energy sources on which we can depend on. But the problem is when we harness those energy sources, there are certain consequences with it, like pollution, right? Every energy source used basically pollutes the environment. So we have to be very innovative in, coming up with devices which are less polluting and what? Less expensive. These are the things. Whatever disadvantages, we have to work towards their improvement, right? So the next question: how long will an energy source last us? Right. So renewables will last forever, right? And the non-renewable, we have to use them wisely so that we extend their supply. Yeah. Okay, so it will be depleted over a longer period. That's it. So with this, the story from my side is over. Okay. So let's see what kind of questions come on this topic. So you can go to page 171, review questions. So you have very short answer question about give suitable examples of the use of solar energy in daily life. Right, water heater, solar cell, solar cooker, right? Yes. So name any two renewable sources of energy, solar and wind, right? Mention any two uses of wind energy.
Electricity production and
Electricity production
and movement of water.
pulling of water. Name the device which directly converts solar to electricity. Solar cell. Mention two ways by which water can be used to produce hydroelectricity. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so ocean का जो तीन है, tidal, wave and ocean thermal and ये dam वाला जो tidal, right? But tidal and dam जो दोनों dam वाला है ना वही ले लो. One is tidal wave energy. Is it tidal or what is it? Tidal energy and dam वाला. Yes, these two. State the limitations of wind energy.
Availability of wind.
Availability of wind and high cost, right? These two and very high maintenance, right? Because it is in the harsh weather conditions. Why is tidal energy not likely to be a potential source of energy?
Also, it is very.
The locations where it can be exploited are very few, right? So you should have this proper setting to be able to exploit this. Next. So list any 4 steps in sequence in which the energy gets transformed from one form to another in this process.
Kinetic energy of the wind to electrical energy. The electric energy turn into mechanical energy for the operation of the pump, and then mechanical energy into kinetic energy of the water that goes up, which turns into potential energy as the idea.
Yeah, you can. And then again, when it is spilled back, it turns into kinetic energy of water, right? Mention any 4 areas where solar cells are being used as source of energy. TV, mobile towers, remote areas, then traffic lights, toys, calculators, satellites, remote villages, right? Okay. State the forms in which energy stored in the oceans manifests itself. Which one of these is utilizing OTEC system? So OTEC is ocean thermal energy. Converter, maybe ocean. Ocean thermal energy converter, right? C, the last C, right? Okay. Then state the advantages of obtaining biogas from animal dung and bio waste.
It's good completely.
Huh?
But completely does not leave.
Yeah, it does not leave any residue, right? So there are so many advantages. How much more time we have? 10 minutes, right? Well, 35, right? So we still have a lot of time. Yeah. Next. A student constructed a model of a box type solar cooker. He used transparent plastic sheet to cover the open place of.
Plastic sheet.
We wanted to do it, did not want it. What modification should we make? Just remove the plastic sheet with glass. Duration. So plastic sheet was not able to hold the or produce a greenhouse effect, right? What modification? The second modification could be you could paint the inside of the box with black paint, right? If it is not already. Okay. 13. If you wish to set up a wind farm, what would be your main consideration in selecting the site?
Select a high space.
Availability of winds, 15 km per hour. It should be a large barren land because land requirement is very high, right? So constant wind flow and land availability, right? These two things. Okay. Next question 14. Why is hydro energy considered an indirect source of solar energy? Hydro energy. Yes, the water because of sun only, right? So the rain happens due to that's sun cycle. Yes, the water cycle. That's sun cycle. Okay. Actually, now hydro energy can be converted into electrical energy. We have seen by building dams and then releasing the water at turbine. Describe the construction of the solar cooker. You know that. How does it cause a rising temperature to cook food? So the mirror reflector and the glass covering to enhance the greenhouse effect. So you say greenhouse effect. Use the keywords. So glass covering will create the greenhouse effect inside the volume. Name the agent which decomposes animal dung into biogas. Anaerobic bacteria, right? So they are natural decomposers. Describe the method of obtaining biogas. So in the digester, right? With the help of dung and water slurry. Name the main constituent of the biogas. So you have a digester and the dough, okay, then some soil, etc. And this slurry, okay, all that. So see that digester diagram. Draw a labeled diagram of any one design of biogas and describe its work. The same diagram, right? Mention any two advantages of converting animal dung into biogas over using it as fuel in the form of dried cakes. So dried cakes will produce smoke and residue, right? So it will pollute the air. So that's why the dry cakes like it's better to use the biogas. What are the main? So it's important, it's very repeated kind of. What are the main constituents of biogas? Methane, hydrogen sulfide,
Carbon dioxide, hydrogen sulfide,
and methane. Methane. Do you have carbon dioxide also? It's given, carbon dioxide,
Hydrogen sulfide.
So, but maximum is methane, almost 75. So why is biogas considered superior to dry animal dung as well? Teach us this. No smoke, no pollution, no residue. Explain tidal energy. During high tide, the water is held back in dam, right? And then that held back dam, you know how it comes. Release the water, that kinetic energy of turbine produces. Now there is a long answer question 5. A student has set up a solar cooker in a box using a black painted aluminum sheet, a black cooking vessel, some glass wool, a glass sheet, and a mirror plate. What is the role of each item using the solar cooker?
So black painted aluminum sheet used.
Yeah, so everything we know except the glass wool. So glass wool would be so that the heat doesn't conduct outside the vessel. The glass sheet is kept only in the upper portion. What about the sides? So it's a wooden container, right? So you have a double layer wood and in between you fill a glass. So it will not let the heat pass out. Okay. So everything else we have already discussed. Now here is a homework exercise. Then you have this appendix activity. List 4 forms of energy that you use from morning when you wake up till you reach the school. Now where do you घर में खाना खा के निकलते हो तो all that energy. Then you take a transport to school, so fossil fuel. When you get up, you switch on the lights, electrical energy, right? So many, right? What else? Water energy. Yeah, so when you take bath, right? So stored water energy, potential energy is getting converted into kinetic. Okay. Everything. Wind energy. Then go to electricity से wind energy. So now where do we get these different forms of energy? So mention the sources, right? Can we call these sources of energy? Why or why not? Discuss. So answer electrical. So answer is also given. Electrical, heat, chemical, muscular, and light energy are the forms which we use somewhat. We get these forms from electricity, petrol, food. So why are they? No, they are forms of energy. So the answers are given for every activity. Okay? So don't miss this. So every activity answer is given in the book, right? So you must go through it. So take time to go through 5 minutes, whatever you can be doing. So these notes, these are not consistent, right? Not every exercise has activity. There is an activity everywhere. Have you bothered to look at the questions at the end of every chapter? No. So my advice is solve all your NCRT examples, questions at the back of NCRT, then come to these questions. So do as many questions as you can, right? Plus I think every Thursday they upload a question bank. So whenever you have a test expected during the weekend, okay? So for the same topic, you will also have a question bank uploaded. So if you finish those questions, I think you will have good results in your test. So you don't have to avoid test, just look at the question bank. Most of the questions will get to you now. Okay, so practice that, and then I think those question banks have answers as well. Have you tried those question banks? No, so you need a user ID and password to reach that, and it is available on universaltutorials.in. Okay, so the same login ID password will work. If it is not, you can talk to Roger. Right, so your topic preparation will be done effortlessly if you go to the question. Of course, you have to go to the theory and then attend those questions. With this, dear students, we come to the end of physics, part of science. Okay, but this is not our last interaction. We keep making. Am I giving a very sentimental speech? I'm trying to do that. So make it funny. All right then. So I wish you all the best for the rest of the course. And if you have any doubts, feel free to get in touch with me by way of doubt solving sessions. Let's see if I will meet you in SCPS or I will have a different teacher. All right. Chalo.
Nine. CPS